Hello. Today we're going to make a t-shirt blanket. My friend Tony brought me 36 t-shirts from her husband who'd passed away. She wants a blanket that she can hug and love and remember her husband by. So I'm going to show you how to do that. If you're ready to make a t-shirt blanket, here's what you need. You need at least 24 shirts. And adult size large is a good size for 24 shirts. If you have smaller size shirts, you need more like 36. You're also going to need rotary cutter and some quilting rulers so that you can cut the shirts. I also love my 18-inch ruler. You're going to need some scissors. I have a very large mat, which I love, but if you don't, any cutting mat will do. You're going to need pins. You're also going to need flannel for the back of your blanket. If you're doing 44-inch wide, you're going to need 6 yards. If you're doing a wider width, you can calculate how much you need. You're also going to need batting for your blanket. Then I think we're ready to get started. Right now, I am at my midpoint of making this blanket. I want to show you some of the panels that I've already done, and then I'm going to show you how to do them. This is one of the panels I just finished. And as you can see, this is a button-down shirt. It's not a t-shirt. There's no stretch to it, but you can put literally any clothing into a t-shirt. And you're saying, wow, that is not like symmetrical. I am not a quilter. And this is not going to be a quilter's blanket. This is going to be spontaneously created, and the squares and the blocks I put in are going to be all different sizes because I find that it's a lot more fun to look at a blanket that way. Let me show you some of my other ones that I've created. This one has 6 t-shirts in it. Okay, and then here's one more. These are the ones I've done so far, and you'll see that none of them are the same. It's got some creativity in it, and it's fun. Let me show you how to do it. So you've got your pattern. You're going to start by throwing some t-shirts on here to get a good color balance. I'm going to have these 3 on the top, and I'm going to have these 3 on the bottom. Now if you'll notice, we have one big logo, one modest logo, a fun logo, right, and a couple of pockets, and this is a polo shirt. We have black balanced. Because I had twice as many black shirts as I had any other color, I needed to get 2 black shirts in every panel. And then the other panels I could mix the gray and the navy and the other colors. So that is where we're starting, is we're getting our color mixture kind of set. Now we're going to start cutting. I usually cut the one with the biggest logo on it first. So I'm going to cut Mr. North Face. The first one is going to be easy because we don't have to fit it into a space on the pattern. You want to get it flat. This needs to be at least 1.5 inches on each side of this logo. These 2 shirts are kind of plain, so we don't need a lot of space on the left and right of where this is going to go. So I'm going to cut this with 2 inches on each side. So I'm looking right here. We have 15 inches. I'm going to put my quilting ruler down, and I can see up here that I'm just inside of 22. I'm going to look down here. I'm just inside of 22. Another thing I would like to point out, I'm going to use both sides of this t-shirt. A lot of times a t-shirt blanket, people use it for comfort because of someone they know is not with them, either at college or has passed away. And I heard something once that a heavy blanket gives a lot more comfort than a lighter blanket. So I put both layers in unless I'm using the other layer for another part of the t-shirt. Sometimes you don't have enough t-shirts to make all 6 blocks unless you use the other side, but I know I have enough, so I'm using both layers. I'm also going to measure this approximately around 15 inches will be fine. So we're going to come over here. Now, some people say, Steph, can I use scissors? Don't use scissors. Use a rotary cutter. Scissors will drive you crazy, okay? Now, there's 2 layers here, but this is cotton jersey. It'll stay together well enough. Put it into your blanket on your pattern. I'm gonna get it to come to the edge of this. Now I'm gonna cut a piece next to it. We're gonna measure the spot it needs to fit. Okay, I'm gonna go to the edge. It says 8.5 to the fabric. For seam allowance, you need to add 1 inch to every measurement. And you'll only forget to do that once. Add 1 inch to every measurement. So I'm gonna go 9.5 by 15. Every t-shirt, you're gonna have to decide what you wanna keep. This has a very faint Under Armour little signet on it. I wanna keep that, okay? We're only doing 9.5. That gives us about 1.5 inches on this side and about 5 inches over there. So it gives the illusion that it's off the t-shirt. Sometimes I like to put this in because I think a lot of times people will remember the person who's passed if they see the collar of the shirt. So I am assuming that since you are doing this project, you have basic sewing skills and you can sew this straight on the machine. Now I'm not pinning it. If you are a quilter, let go. Let go of all of the quilting things that you know. I am not pinning it. I'm just taking it to the machine, matching up the corners because I can kind of stretch it so it'll match. Actually, I'm going to pick a different black shirt than this one because I would like to include these buttons and the logo. And if I do that, it's going to be, the buttons are going to be all the way over to the right and it's not going to have very good symmetry. That doesn't look like a t-shirt. So I'm actually going to go over here to my pile of extra shirts. And actually what I'm going to do is I have made a decision, all right? And it's not the right thing, it's just what I like. And it's whatever you like, okay? But I've decided to put Grill Dad over here because if I put it here, it's too symmetrical for me. I'm not a quilter, I like it to be unsymmetrical. So I'm putting the Grill Dad over there and these 2 right here. And this one with the pocket here. Okay, let's start the top one. We're gonna go with the one with the biggest logo first, okay, because we want to get all of that logo in and we can compress those. So this one was one of their favorite shirts that their dad wore. If this was your blanket that you were making for your family, it might be hard to cut these shirts up and you might worry that you're gonna do something wrong. And honestly, I have found that if you're heavily emotionally involved, it might be good to involve someone else who can do this for you, but it might be therapeutic for you as well. But don't be afraid, okay? You really can't make a huge mistake. Like even if I cut this to the wrong dimensions, I can put it in a different shirt. So don't be afraid. It's gonna be all right. Let's cut up Grill Dad. Okay, we need to get our flannel ready for the back of this t-shirt blanket. I have ordered 44-inch wide flannel, and what I'm going to do is cut 2 pieces, 3 yards long, sew them together, and then I'm going to throw them in my dryer for a minute. So we just got our flannel out of the dryer. I put it on the wrinkle away setting, which adds a little water to it, so we get the pre-shrunk. I used to completely wash it and dry it. It takes way too much time. Just put it on the wrinkle away, or put a wet washcloth in there so it can get the wrinkles out. Anyway, now you need to find a big piece of floor or a bed or something where you can lay out your blanket, and it's going to be big. And you want to lay it out, of course, if you think about it, wrong side up. This batting, it's wide enough that I can cut it this way. And I know that my blanket topper is just off the edge of my blanket. So I'm going to make sure that's how far my batting goes. And then I'm going to cut it. If you don't get the 96-inch wide batting, you have to roll it on the blanket this way. And you'll need more yardage. All right, now we have our completed t-shirt topper. Okay, things to look for. You want to make sure there is batting under every part of your t-shirt top. You don't have to have a lot. I'm going to actually trim this to where there's like less than an inch, because I have about a less than an inch over here, and I just want to do it all the same. So I'm just going to do less than an inch all the way around. Actually, I'm doing about an inch. This is not perfect. If we wanted it to be perfect, we would be a quilter. I'm the anti-quilter. I have nothing against quilters. It's just that I'm not a perfectionist, and you kind of have to have that perfectionist gene to be a quilter. Am I right? I'm right. I know I'm right. Okay, so now we have this. We have plenty of batting up here to make a nice topper. And by that, I mean an inch on every side, but maybe 3 inches at the top of the blanket. So I'm going to leave 3 or 4 inches up here, and we can make a little bit of a bigger header. Okay, now we need to trim up our flannel. In my directions, I said about 1 inch out from the top of the blanket and about 3 or 4 inches out from the batting. Let me show you a little bit closer about how I do the folding. You're going to need a lot of pins. So usually what I do when I fold it right to the edge, but then this fold is going to go over the edge, at least 1/2 inch. And then you pin it. You can see that we're going to need to do this all the way around with a lot of pins. I'm going to show you how to get a really nice mitered corner on this t-shirt blanket. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to snip off the corner of the batting. All right, that's just going to get in our way. Now I'm going to take the flannel and fold it under the t-shirt blanket like this. Now I'm just guessing at this point. I'm hoping that that's a good spot. We're going to see in a minute. All right, then put this back here. We're going to fold it right here. Now I can tell that my corner goes up too much. See, there's just a gap here. I want the edge to be right on that corner. So we're going to redo. We're going to come out just a little. Go here. Go here. Ah, see how nice that looks? That's right on the corner. Let's pin it and see if we can get our other side to do the same thing that this one's doing. One. Let's see if this is going to be... I'm still too short. Let's do it again. We're going to come out a little bit more. Oh yeah, look at that! That is nice. Okay, so we're going to pin this in several places. You can just tug that t-shirt over just a little, give it a little more under there. Very nice. And then we'll keep pinning up the other side of this blanket. So instead of a mitered corner, I'm just going to fold this up. And then just fold this down. So it's not going to be a mitered corner, because it's impossible, if not very, very, very difficult, to do a mitered corner with 2 uneven sides. Okay, I'm done pinning the sides of my t-shirt blanket. Now I'm going to pin between the panels. We have 6 panels on my blanket, and I'm going to pin on top of the seams between those panels, because in a minute I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and I'm going to stitch in the ditch of all of the seams between the panels. So I'm going to go all the way across this blanket and putting the pins in here. If you don't do this, it will be impossible for you to line up your sewing machine or your blanket on the sewing machine, because it's going to look like a huge pile of blanket. So you've got to do this to line it up so that your stitching is straight. Now you might ask, why do I need to sew seams on top of my blanket? You've got to keep all of the layers together. If you're gonna sew it, you're gonna need to tie it or quilt it or something. You can't just have all the 3 layers floating around hoping that they'll stay together. And also, I am going to add an extra seam down this side. You know, a lot of times when I make these, I'm like, oh, I don't need to do that. But then I really do. So I'm gonna pin that, and then we'll take it to the sewing machine. Okay, we're gonna start by stitching around the edge of this blanket. Every time you grab the blanket, grab it gently, because you will stick yourself. Have your pin cushion ready, because you're going to be taking out every one of these pins. And one thing I do want to tell you, your flannel has a little bit of a stretch to it. So sometimes you'll get to the end and you'll have some extra flannel. So what I like to do is I like to grab it from behind and just give a little bit of a tug so that it's not pushing the fabric at the end of the seam. If you look right here, you can see I'm sewing in about 1/4 inch. It doesn't really matter because no one's going to check your stitching. You just want to be on the fabric. The flannel has more of a give than I want it to, so I am kind of stretching it as I sew, because the t-shirts will also stretch. This is the beauty of not being a quilter. You can just stretch it to fit. All right, so I'm gonna redo this just because I don't like how that looks. See how that's hanging off the edge? I can do better. I have sewn all the way around my blanket. Now I'm sewing the inside seams. And I want to just show you a little bit of my technique when I sew this. So there are pins all along here, and I am stitching in the ditch of this seam, okay? Now it is stretchy, so what I have to do is just give it a little bit of a push while I'm sewing. Okay, you see that? No, I'm not gonna stitch over my finger. But if I don't give it a little gentle push while I'm sewing, then it's just gonna push all that fabric over the pin like that. Thank you for watching this tutorial about how to make a t-shirt blanket. One thing I like about the way I do it is the stitching on the seams makes the t-shirts a little bit puffy and it makes them stand out. Also, I always use flannel because it's huggable and it feels so good against your skin. And I really hope that you were successful in making a t-shirt blanket, because someone is going to love this blanket forever. Thank you.